All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Hope you had a good lunch. Like the new digs, looks like that room got a little bit of an update as well, so that's great. I'd ask all of you to join me if you could all rise. And you know what? I'm going to ask Sharon. I know I saw Sharon. If you can lead us in the pledge today, please. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Sharon. And I think I saw Kirk pop up there. Kirk, are you going to be leading our invocation today? Oh, yes. Beat me to it.
All right. Is this working? Yep.
It is. Thank you.
All right. This is a thought for today that expresses a good part of what Rotary is about. You may not know the impact you have had on someone's life, the feeling you have given to someone simply because of your kindness. Your small act might have changed the mind of somebody ready to give up. Choose kindness, choose grace, change the world.
Thank you. That was great, Kirk. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, go ahead and have a seat, and we'll get started here. I'll start things off with the usual protocol of seeing if there's any guests or visiting Rotarians. It's kind of hard for me to see there. So if
Steve,
I don't know if Pablo, if you could let me know.
We do have a
perfect.
guest, and BJ will introduce him.
Great.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce Randall Williams. He is in printing and graphic design. So welcome, Randall.
Welcome to the club, Randall. Great to have you here.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you, Steve. All right. A few announcements here. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but next week we have the honor of hosting our district governor. District Governor Hank Husking is going to be meeting with the board at about 11, and then is going to be attending our meeting and will actually be the speaker for the day. So I would strongly ask, please, if you're able to, if you're in town, if you could join the meeting in person, kind of show our support for District Governor Hank. I know we've had a few past district governors that I'm sure would say that they've appreciated the in-person visits. I'm sure Anita, looking down the road, and would say the same thing. So if you're able to attend, please make the effort to join us. Let's see here. So I guess it's been a couple of weeks. What day of the month are we? Last week, sorry, looking at a calendar here. We collected some cans. I don't know if Barbara or if Pat's there, if there's an update on, I saw the car, it was pretty loaded. So I don't know if there's any updates on our efforts there regarding the Let's Can Polio campaign for our Rotaract Club.
Well, I just want to say that last week, thank you to Pat Ebert for picking up all those cans. He had 47 pounds in the back of his car, and recycled them. So our amount is growing. I want to tell you that we're also going to have a table that Audrey Tuluyan and her daughter are going to man, or excuse me, staff at the district conference. And we're going to have a raffle so that if you go to the district conference and you pick cans, you're going to get a raffle ticket that will offer you either a $50 Amazon card or some chocolates from Spain. So I am personally going to bring those back with me. So yes, we're on our way. We're doing well. And thank you, Pat. And yay, thank you, Audrey.
Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, Audrey. And that's a good reminder. So our district conference, it's going to be hosted at Casino del Sol. And it's going to be on a Friday and Saturday event, I believe, in the 29th and 30th. So please go to the district website, district5500.org, I think it is, or that you can visit and get some information there. But as one of those, one of the parts of the conference this year is going to be having a little bit of a, I don't know what we'd call it, a soiree to kind of introduce our very own Anita McDonald, who's going to be the kind of recognized there as the district governor-elect. So our club is actually going to be hosting the event. So I would really, again, just to show support for the district and really more for Anita, but also just to have a good time. If you're able to attend, please do so. The registration details are on the website. I want to say it's about 80 and for Friday and 150 maybe for Saturday, and there's a discount there for the package. So should be a fun time, should be a good event, and yeah, let's get out there and support Anita. Let me see here. Next on the list, the Hope Need Baskets. I don't know if I've heard an update from Bob, so forgive me if I'm misspeaking here about needing personal hygiene items. Those are very much needed, and so if you can bring those to our meetings, or Bob, I think, had also committed to picking some up. So if you want to make him drive around, that's a good way to do it. Let me see here. So Bobby D, I don't know if you want to mention a couple of the service projects that we've got coming up, if I can put you on the spot. Oh,
If you may have gotten a, hold on just a minute. Can you just hold on a minute? We have 4 opportunities in community service, and you got an email from Paul Bennett on that, but one is to be a courier for you, and is the liaison. So if you're interested in doing that, please get in touch with Tony. And I know Joan has recently started doing that, so she would also be a good source of information and questions on that. Also, the Dunbar Pavilion.
Bandwidth problems there, Bob.
Bobby D, I'll jump in and I think, yeah, maybe there's some bandwidth issues there. It's getting a little bit choppy. But I think I have the information right. Maybe raise your hand if I'm getting the information wrong here. But Bobby D was talking about was a youth on their own. They're needing couriers, and they deliver stipend checks, school supplies, food and hygiene products to homeless youth at their schools, kind of around Pima County. And Tony Spear would be the primary contact for you if you are interested. Thank you, Joan, for volunteering for that project. We also have we're going to be delivering dictionaries again this year. And I think we've got 4 schools this year. Maldonado, which is the school where Nicole Curry, she is a member of our club and also involved with Rotaract, the Rotaract club that we're involved with. So there's Maldonado, Wright, Fruchtendler, and Erickson. And that's where our reading program is taking place there. So it's a lot of good synergy there for who we're supporting. And Paul Bennett is the primary contact for you there. So if you'd be interested in that, I would ask that you reach out to Paul. Let me see here. And we also have the Dunbar Pavilion. That's a project that we're kind of involved with their board and their organization, but they're needing volunteers to help out at the office for half-day shifts until they can kind of find a new executive director. So any support there, if you have some free time, they would certainly appreciate that. And Bobby D is the primary contact for you there. So please reach out to Bob if you have any questions or would want to inquire about that opportunity. And last but not least is our road cleanup. So that's back, the classic event that we do a couple times a year. So this is going to be on Saturday, the 23rd. And usual meet at 7-Eleven at the corner of Skyline and Swan at 8 o'clock. And then there'll be a little meal afterwards at Finney's Landing. And Bobby D is also your contact for there. So Bob's staying busy, keep him busy with the emails and calls and everything. So as usual, those are fun events. So thank you in advance for your involvement there. Let me see here. Any other announcements there on Zoom?
I have an update on Yodo.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I was informed by Yodo this week that they have filled up for carrying couriers.
wow.
Barbara's going to serve as a backup driver, but pretty much they've filled it in the community already. But there will be other opportunities for the club for their fundraising events and luncheons and stuff that they have coming up. But I'll keep the club advised of any upcoming opportunities. And Andy's got his hand up, so I'm going to give him the mic.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony.
One last thing is I still have tickets for the Tucson Classic Car Show on Saturday, October 16th. So if you're interested in a ticket or 10, let me know, and I'll be happy to sell those to you. Half of the funds goes to the Tucson Club and half of the funds stays with us.
Thank you, Andy. And also online instructions or instructions for.
And online, you can also get the, you can also go online and order your tickets. If you do, please put down in the reference line Catalina Rotary Club, and we'll get credit for those sales as well. Thank you. Oh, and it's not just a brand new Corvette this year. It's also the choice of that or $50,000, plus about 4 other raffle prizes. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Andy. All right. Any other announcements in person or online? All right, great. Well, lots of stuff going on. So thanks in advance for all your participation and involvement and support. And Tony, I'm glad to hear that the need has been filled. Ultimately, that's really the most important part. So thanks for being the point person there, point of contact with Yoda. So with that, I'm happy to move forward and get on with our meeting and kind of to the highlight of the meeting here. We've got a really good program today. So thank you to our program speakers committee and kind of once again providing an awesome speaker to us. I'd like to introduce Detective Jennifer Crawford, who works for the Tucson Police Department, is also one of the founding members of Southern Arizona Anti-Trafficking Response Unit, or SAATURN for short. SAATURN was originally developed with the grant funding, but is now a local collaboration between Tucson Police Department.
Hey,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Sharon's going to introduce our guest speaker here in person.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, perfect. Sharon, please.
Okay. You're out. Sharon is in.
All right, good.
No, but Jimmy is still president of the club.
Yeah, no, it's okay, Sharon. By all means, thank you so much for doing this.
Well, I was looking forward to this. Globally, commercial sex exploitation is a 99 billion, yes, with a B, industry, billion-dollar industry, according to the UN Interim Labor Organization. The hotline ranks Arizona in the top 15 for human traffic reports. To date, Jennifer Crawford has a distinguished 24-year career with the Tucson Police Department. She must have started when she was 15. As a detective for 21 years of the 24 years, her assignments have flowed through narcotics, sex crimes, gangs, and homicide. Ooh, boy, you really get into the nitty-gritty stuff. She is the founding member of SAATURN, SAATURN, which is the Southern Arizona Anti-Trafficking Response Unit, in collaboration with Homeland Security. Detective Crawford is a core member of the SAATURN collaboration, which includes subcommittees on law enforcement, high-risk juveniles, and training and outreach. She has been appointed on the Governor's Council for Human Trafficking and is cross-designated as a task force officer for Homeland Security investigations. That's her first job. Her second job is being a detective in the new threat mitigation unit for the department. Rotary International started featuring events and information on human trafficking during their peace conferences. So it is a Rotary topic. So aren't we thrilled? And please let's welcome back our to Catalina Rotary, Detective Crawford, to spell out the magnitude of human trafficking in our area, and more importantly, how we might get involved. Welcome, Jennifer.
Can you guys hear me? I tend to talk really loud anyway, so when I'm in front of a speaker, it just makes it worse. Thank you very much for having me back. I appreciate it. Whenever I get the opportunity to come out and speak about human trafficking, we really like to get the community involved, so we appreciate you guys being supporters of us. So hopefully my PowerPoint will show up, or is it already reloaded? Do I just click this? Okay. So yeah, as you were mentioning, you were talking about like the $1 billion figure. Just to put that in perspective a little bit, I used to have a slide up with statistics, and back in 2015, I think it was 150 billion, I forget, but anyway, it was a combined total of like Google, Nike, Starbucks, and I want to say the NFL combined, all of the money that they make, human trafficking worldwide still made more money. So just to kind of put that in perspective for you, like, you know, it's almost the top money making illegal activity in the world behind narcotics, of course. So I don't know if it'll ever quite catch up, but it's close on its heels. And please wave at me if I start to get close. I brought my phone up, but I can probably talk about this forever. So normally my trainings are a minimum of an hour. So I tried to condense what I could for you guys in like a nice highlight of my 20-25 minutes. So if it seems really fast and I skip, like maybe you're waiting for the next slide, but it goes on to something else, that's why. So this is our mission statement. As she said, we are SAATURN. I did not invent that really long name, but that's where we ended up with at the time. So originally we were with Tucson Police Department, FBI, and Homeland Security, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. We actually had a federal grant for approximately 3.5 years. So these were our collaborators, and we worked with Kodak here locally in town. I know that some of you are out of state, and they would handle all of our victim support services. So they got part of the grant, and then we got the law enforcement side of it. So since the grant went away, Homeland Security is still our only other law enforcement partner that I work with, which is really important because having a federal support team gives me, and now I'm a task force officer with them, gives me the ability to charge people that have victims like across state lines, Mexican border, things like that. Whereas Tucson police officer, I'm not able to do that. So these are our two goals. Obviously, we want to provide services to trafficking victims, you know, make sure that they have housing, maybe they need therapy, mental health therapy, substance abuse, anything that they need, their basic necessities. Because normally when we come across them, they don't have anything. So it's really important that we address those needs kind of before we work on our criminal case. And then obviously we want to proactively investigate and identify their traffickers. So pretty simple. So what is human trafficking? Because I don't know, some people might know a whole lot, others might not really know very much. So basically it's this kind of a simple slide. You need to have some kind of an action, a means, and a purpose. So an action just means that there needs to be some type of like recruitment, transporting a person, handing off one person to another person for the purpose of trafficking. Then there needs to be means. So what this is there has to be force, fraud, or coercion in trafficking. So in human trafficking is kind of the overall umbrella, and then you have labor trafficking and sex trafficking. So both of those, you need to have force, fraud, and coercion. Unless they're a minor, we don't have to prove that because technically minors cannot consent. And then there needs to be a purpose, which is going to be that commercial sex act or the labor act. So you're going to have some type of an action involving force, fraud, or coercion with the victim for the purpose of commercial sex act or labor, which is basically a profit for that exploiter. They're trying to get away from modern day slavery. That used to be from Department of Homeland Security, but terms change all the time. So they're trying to get away from that because when people hear that phrase, they tend to think of people that are in chains or being held hostage, and that's not really what's happening anymore. So they don't want to give people the wrong image. So human trafficking versus human smuggling, completely two separate things investigated by completely two separate agencies. I have nothing to do with human smuggling. A lot of people think that trafficking is smuggling, which isn't to say that they won't overlap. So basically, trafficking is a crime committed against the individual, and smuggling is considered a crime against like the country. So obviously, being so close to the border here in Arizona, we have a lot of human smuggling. So usually what will happen is someone will agree to be smuggled into this country. So they're not being coerced or usually, you know, under any force to come over. They are paying somebody to bring them over into this country. What we'll usually see happen is, so someone will come across the border in a smuggling situation, and once they get to their final destination is where we find those human trafficking violations. So maybe they've come up here looking for a job or what they believe is going to be a job, and they get to their final destination. And then that's where their documents are being held from them. they find out the job is not what it was supposed to be, and now they're being exploited for their labor and or their commercial sex. So they often intertwine a lot, but not at that initial point where they're entering into the United States, usually. Everything could be, a unique situation, but most of the time, the trafficking doesn't happen until they get to their final destination, if that makes sense. So it's just a breakdown of some of the trafficking that we see is, again, I said we have the human trafficking, the overall umbrella, and then that's divided up into two categories. So for sex trafficking, obviously, I'm sure everyone's familiar with prostitution. We obviously have a lot of that going on. A lot of the online escorts, if you're not familiar with that, it's basically an ad that's placed online that is supposed to just be an escort, which is a date with somebody, but it ends up being a guise for prostitution, basically. We can have a lot of pornography. Our internet crime against children unit could fall under this category. We see a lot of activity in massage parlors that are around town. And I'm talking about like those little strip mall, the Asian massage parlors. We see a lot of sexual exploitation and labor exploitation there. I'm not talking about like your mainstream massage parlors that probably everybody knows. And then labor trafficking can be domestic servitude, construction. We don't obviously have a lot of agricultural here, but the farm fields, of course, nail salons, hotels, housekeeping, any of those kind of things. So it's kind of how we divide up the two areas, just to give you an idea of where we're seeing this type of activity here. So here's some numbers. I actually don't like to quote a lot of statistics, but everybody wants to hear about statistics. And the reason for that is human trafficking is extremely underreported across the country and across the world. And different agencies have different ways of reporting stuff. So a lot of times the numbers are very skewed. Somebody in a certain state or agency might track a stat as, oh, well, I have a human trafficking case, and they'll count that as a stat. Other places might only count it if they make an arrest. A lot of my cases come to me not under human trafficking at all. Primarily, I get a lot of domestic violence stuff, or runaway juveniles accounts for a really high number of my cases that end up being potential sex trafficking. And so unless that clearance code, which is tracked by the FBI, is changed, that might never get counted as a statistic. So there's really skewed a lot. But these are some I'm comfortable with talking about. Average age for entry into sex trafficking in the state of Arizona and across the country for that matter is approximately 14. It's actually going down a little bit. I've heard recently they're seeing young kids as long as 12 and 13. And I'll put a disclaimer out when I talk about this presentation. I'm probably going to talk about victims in the female version because that's mostly what we see, but absolutely victims can be male or female. And then the offender is usually male, but again, they can be anybody as well. It's just easier than going back and forth saying he, she all the time. 2019, they haven't done their updated one yet. You can see over 26,000 runaways were reported to NCMEC. So that's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. 1 in 6 of those they estimate are likely victims of child sex trafficking, whether or not they're proven or not, but it's like suspected cases that they have either sent out to law enforcement or through tips. Cyber tip line last year, or 2 years ago now, I guess almost 16.9 million reports slated to exploitation concerns. So that's not just specifically trafficking, that could be the online child pornography, images, things like that, but anything to do with underage exploitation. And that went up tremendously during COVID, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, because everybody was stuck at home, so they're online. So they got, I want to almost say it just doubled from January to June of last year when we were really in COVID, was extreme numbers off the charts. Every year they do an ASU Yes survey, which they target young homeless adults. I believe it's from 18 to 22. And so in Arizona, 1 in 4 homeless young adults have reported some type of sexual exploitation. And a lot of times that ends up being what we kind of call survival sex, which basically means obviously they're on the street, and even though they're not under 18, they're exchanging sexual services for like food or a place to stay or maybe a shower or something like that. So maybe that trafficker didn't find them to bring them and exploit them, but they're still being exploited because of their situation. International Labor Organization estimates over 40 million victims of human trafficking globally. So that's obviously worldwide, and that would be labor and sex, but still, I mean, just huge numbers. And again, I think these are very lowballed. 60% forced labor. Most of them are obviously women and young girls. And then only 1 to 2% of human trafficking victims are ever identified. So I think it's interesting, you have all these really large numbers, But then you get down here and it's like 1 to 2% are ever identified. You know, why is that? Does anybody know? Any guesses? Absolutely. So nobody reports. One, they're very hesitant to report to the police. Many of them do not like the police. They've been treated very badly by them. Maybe they've been arrested, just treated as, you know, a prostitute or a drug addict. So they don't have a good trust of the police or even their medical health care environments. They've, a lot of them have been kind of brainwashed, for lack of a better term, and we'll talk about that. You know, then they're told, this is what you will say if you encounter somebody, you know, this is a story you will give them. Also, it's not recognized. A lot of places are not trained to recognize it, even law enforcement professions. Fortunately, that's training in the changing in the last couple of years. This has been a really hot topic. So medical fields, counselors, law enforcement, fire have been really well trained now to observe a lot of things. But yeah, it's just really hard to identify sometimes. Nobody wants to cooperate, and just a lack of training. So what is sex trafficking? So kind of just to break this down, because I sometimes think that people still feel like it's like that prostitution idea that they have a mental image of. So basically sex trafficking is any sex act that is traded for something of value. Again, we still need to have those elements of that force, fraud, and coercion. Unless it's a minor, I don't have to prove those in my criminal case, but you kind of still need those to be involved. But it doesn't have to be just for money. It can be money, food, a place to stay, a new purse, a new Xbox game, new sneakers, anything like that. Anything of value or material items. If there's a sex act is traded and we have those elements, that falls under sex trafficking. Also, if an individual is an adult, like we call them Johns, like a client, and they have sex with an underage person, and they know that person is underage, they can actually be charged with sex trafficking, even though they're not the ones that are selling that person for money. So here's some trends that we're seeing here in Pima County. And I know some of you watching are not locally here, but these are also pretty common across the country. So we have a lot of drug use here. A lot of our runaways, maybe we're using marijuana or pills. Some of the kids are really into Xanax right now, but we're finding a lot of them when we recover them are escalating into really harder drugs. So heroin and methamphetamine, our adults and our juveniles. We see a lot of escorts that have developed into this work that started working in the strip clubs, the dance clubs here in town is a really good place for recruitment or grooming. They, you know, find these guys, these pimps will go in there. Obviously they make that sell of, you know, well, you're already dancing, you know, half naked, you could make, you know, 5 times as much as you are now, if maybe you just do a little bit more. So they'll start to kind of test those boundaries and make those relationships inside of those types of environments. And we've had juveniles have been found working in those clubs as well. We do have a high volume of street prostitution here in Tucson, probably no shock to anyone. If you've lived here long enough, I think Miracle Mile used to be the, you know, the place to go to see the street walkers, as they would call them. That's since shifted, but we still have high areas of volume, which are usually intermixed with drug activity, unfortunately. But the big thing that we are seeing in the last couple of years is all social media. Everything is social media driven now. I don't think I've had a case in the last couple of years that has not linked back to meeting somebody online. So people, these pimps, these traffickers, they're recruiting girls or boys, male, female, off of dating sites, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, pretty much anywhere that you can post something online is an outlet for them to interact and engage with somebody. It's given them a whole new outlet of a pool of unlimited victims where they can just look for them in the safety of their own home. They're not out there on the streets anymore. They're not visible to the police or citizens who might see the activity. So, I mean, things unfortunately could not be better for them with social media right now. Here. Oh, so our new thing that we're seeing is self-exploitation on OnlyFans. And so what that means, I don't know how many of you have heard of OnlyFans. Anybody? It's kind of been in the news a little bit. So basically OnlyFans is an adult entertainment site, for lack of a better term, is like legal pornography, basically. Individuals, regular like citizens are going on there and making, you know, home sex videos. Not all of them are sex videos, but a lot of them are. And they're selling them online and they're making a lot of money, which is fine. They're consenting adults. That's their business. But what's happening is these juveniles now are doing the same thing. So they're filming themselves naked, taking naked pictures, topless pictures, and they're adding it on their Snapchat and their Instagram. and selling it as OnlyFans or my premium content, and they're selling it for money. So that's become a new thing in the last year, and they're doing it themselves. The cases that I have found, there was no pimp involved, but they're getting involved because they want to make that money, and they've realized that that's a really easy way. Some of them are just scamming people, which I'm like, yay, that's great. You didn't actually do anything. But then others are, and they're meeting up with people and potentially having sex, or they're selling videos of themselves. So that's become a really bad trend in the last couple of years. Obviously, I was talking about juveniles. I mean, I think we all know just live on their phones 24/7. So, no wonder that they're exploited online. We have a lot of runaways. I think we average about 1,200 a year here in Tucson. That doesn't include the county. I have not updated that with my runaway unit, but it's usually pretty consistent around 1,200. And then a lot of sexting and sextortion. So if you don't, I'm sure everybody knows what the sexting is, or it's where you're doing like your dirty talk back and forth on texting with somebody. And so what happens with the sextortion is, and this can be adults too, is they'll send a naked image of themselves to somebody that they're talking with. That person will in turn basically blackmail them and say, hey, if you don't do this for me, I'm now going to post your picture on social media. I'm going to tell your family, your friends, your coworkers, your job, your pastor at your church, whatever, to get them to do something. And then that's just another tool that they use to manipulate them into, unfortunately, like a trafficking situation. And we do see that a lot with adults and our youth. I had a little clip here, but we can't get it to play. So basically, it was just like a little 5-minute news clip, and it just talks about basically how social media has just taken over and become this huge environment for predators to target their victims. So we tried a couple of different ways. So I apologize that it won't play, but it wasn't anything super necessary to the presentation. So this is just kind of a snapshot I just wanted to show you. So this is kind of the OnlyFans area. So some of these are actually juveniles that I had in a case, and others I just pulled off the internet. But this is kind of what we're seeing. So they'll have their Snapchat account. So in the center there, you can see a girl. She's in a mirror. I've got her face blocked out. And basically it says $50 for the new premium, $150 for meetups, and old premium is $25. So what that means is she's selling old photos of herself for $25. You can have a new photo of me for $50, or I'll meet up with you for $150. This girl was 14 years old and doing this with her 14-year-old twin. Fortunately, they were just scamming people and they never met anybody in person. And we don't believe that they ever sent anything, but still, this is the trend that we're seeing. And this is just posted on Snapchat, which is, a normal social media that they're allowed to have. They can be on, it doesn't matter. So we're seeing that a lot. And then that's obviously an adult female. But so that's just kind of the thing, how it's linked to OnlyFans. And they don't really regulate, I don't think, very well with age, of course. I know they've been in the news a lot lately about trying to shut down some of their content, and there's been a lot of backlash from the people that are working for them. So I think that's going to be in the news for the next year, probably some new headlines. So let's talk about our traffickers. So more commonly known as pimps, the guys that walk the streets, in their fedora hats and their fur coats and their fancy jewelry, right? That's what they look like. We all know what a pimp looks like. Not so much. I mean, a pimp could look like me. Could look like you, can look like you. I mean, they can be anybody, any race, any age, it doesn't matter. I had a case once where an 18-year-old girl recruited her 17-year-old best friend to come and work for a gang member. So, I mean, those were high school girls. So basically we have two kinds of pimps that we normally see, and this is everywhere, not just here in Tucson. So you have what's called the Romeo Pimp, which is exactly what it sounds. That's that guy who's gonna work by charm and flattery. I love you. Let's build a great life together. Things are gonna be wonderful. We're gonna get married and live a high role in life. Works really, really well. Most of my cases involve this kind of pimp because they just mentally are able to take control of that victim and get them to do whatever they want because that victim believes that they're in love with them. Gorilla pimp, kind of exactly like what that sounds. Violence, intimidation, threats, beatings. This may actually be like a kidnapping off the street, someone that is not free to leave and run around. Don't see that a lot. I think in my 5 years, I've only had 2 cases where that's happened. Most of the time we see the Romeo pimp just because it works really well. Most of the time they don't need to be violent to them. They have one thing in common though. What do you guys think that is? Okay, know? Money. It's all about the money. Nobody is in love with anybody. Nobody wants to marry anybody. It's all about how much money can you make me from what I'm having you do. That's all it is. It's a money-making opportunity for them. So here's some of our pimp trends. Again, I know I have Pima County up here, but it's also pretty common across the United States. Social media, we've been talking about, and that's all I feel like my presentations are about now is like social media based. But that's what's going on nowadays. Again, they can sit home in their living rooms with their feet up and just scroll all day long. Unfortunately, people don't keep their accounts private, especially kids. You know, they want as many friends as they can. I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook, 10,000 followers on Instagram. So they don't care all day long. They're like, accept friend, accept follower. They don't even know who it is. And they use that to their advantage. And so what they'll do is they'll just scroll through social media, find somebody, adult or youth. Sometimes they don't know who's posting stuff like, oh man, I had a horrible day. My car broke down, hate my parents, I got fired at work. They're going to look for those things. They're like, ooh, here's maybe a little opportunity for me to connect with that person. They're going to slowly start liking their photos, making little comments, trying to get the attention of that person. So then that person's going to be like, oh, hey, who's this person that liked my photo? Then they're going to go to their page and they're going to start seeing some of this fun stuff that I'm going to show you the next couple slides. So they're always showing a lot of money. You want things that look flashy and fun. So you got to have parties and money and Louis Vuitton and everything that looks nice that somebody might want. So they're going to make their stuff look really fun. A lot of it's fake, but most people don't know that. It's super easy to make a fake account. I have numerous fake accounts for my work that I do. One of them, I'm a 16-year-old girl. One of them, I'm like a 25-year-old marijuana dealer. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's very easy to build an account, whether I'm a male or female. And they can do the same thing. They're always in the entertainment business. I find it never fails. They're always like, I'm a music producer, I'm a modeling agent, I'm a photographer. Again, they want something that sounds like fun and glamorous, to entice that person to come and be with them. They're mobile a lot. This is because, anybody know why they move around so much? Avoid the law is one. What do you think the other one is? What was that? Could be money. Again, it's all about the money. So what do we have here in Tucson every year in February? Normally, gem show. So they're going to follow the money. So wherever a big event is going on, that's where they're going to follow. Super Bowl is about to happen here, I think in Phoenix in a couple of years, also in California, golf tournaments, the gem show, stuff in Vegas, conventions. So they're just following that money trail. Talked about the Romeo thing already. Gang members are getting involved now. They used to just run guns and dope, but they're finding that trafficking in girls or boys obviously is a very lucrative business. So now they're hopping on that bandwagon. So these are just some pictures. These are from actual cases that I've worked. This is a guy up in the corner, Full Pockets. That's actually his nickname. He was a pimp from New York. I always like to say that I'm happy that now his nickname is Empty Pockets because we took all of his stuff. And you think that they would be worried about going to jail? No, they're more upset that you take their stuff. Like I've had pimps cry because I took their, accessories and their fancy clothing. They don't care that they're looking at 20 years in prison. For them, it's that money and material things. But this is what's on their pages. You can see, especially to a young person or maybe an adult who's in a vulnerable situation, why this might look attractive. Like, wow, this guy is like liking my page and wants to be friends with me. He wants to talk with me. I mean, it would make you feel pretty good probably, especially if you're a minor. If you're wondering what in the corner, it says a rack in 2 hours. So that's $1,000 in 2 hours. So this is posted by a girl. So sometimes these aren't just like the male pimps. The shoes and that thing in the corner and the money on the bed was all posted by a female. So again, it could be male or female. And then this is, yeah.
Hold on.
Uh-oh. How am I doing on time, by the way?
There you go, Joanne.
Sorry, if I'm reading this right, that top bullet point says gang boss at pimping hoes and slapping bitches.
Sure does. And
then a few bullets down, this person's engaged.
Yes.
Really?
Well, to a pimp, I guess, if you want to call it that. So this profile was taken off of, it's not my term.
And this is a real thing.
This is a real thing. So there's a term called, it's not my term. It's called a bottom bitch. Sorry if anybody gets offended by that, but that's what it's called. So what that is basically an assistant manager to the pimp. So that's usually going to be an older girl who's been working for him for a long time. She's allowed to handle money. She's allowed to make dates. She will usually recruit juveniles. And she will help more in the process of making stuff. So this was actually taken off a case that I had, one of the girls. As you can see, this was an open page. It wasn't locked down. And on the top, it says strictly business. For the record, need a wifey. I mean, she needs another girl. I'm about my money. So this is great for us because all this stuff was totally open in public. I didn't have to get like a search warrant or subpoena. I found her first, and then I didn't know who she was working for. And then when she had engaged, she had him tagged in a photo, and I went to his thing, and there was a pimp with all of his stuff. So I was like, thank you very much. You just made my case. So they're not very smart, but yeah, I mean, they're not hiding it. It's out there in plain sight if you know what you're looking for.
Detective?
So here's some tattoos. If some of you may have heard stuff in the news about brand, we actually call it branding. Many years ago, they were using, if you see the barcode there, I've never seen any of those in person, but I guess in California, New York, and then other places around the world, they actually would make a barcode tattoo on their girls so that other pimps would know that those girls work for me. Like I said, I've never seen one. Here in Tucson, I do see the crowns a lot, the initials or the names. I do see a lot of diamonds, specifically on the girls. And then any references to money, there's like the money sign. I had one girl that had money maker, bags of money tattoos, anything like that. Sometimes they're getting a little smarter because they know that they're
but you don't know
a little bit, and they don't put their names and things like that anymore. But this is just a small sample, certainly. And certainly, if someone has a tattoo like this, it doesn't mean they're a trafficking victim. Again, you have to look at the big picture, but these are sometimes some common things we see with other things. So just some legal progress that's happened in the last couple of years. Backpage, do you guys know what Backpage is? A couple of years ago, really big in the news. I don't have time to explain it. I could do a whole nother presentation on it. I think I have the date maybe somewhere up there. Oh, there we go, 2018. So it's been a little bit now. It was actually a huge, basically like Craigslist, for simple terms, Craigslist, but for illegal sex activity, probably in a nutshell. And a lot of minors were getting trafficked on it. So the federal government stepped in, seized it, shut it down. We're like, yay, no more trafficking, right? No, that's not what happened. Of course, everything else just popped up on different sites. So same problem, just different areas. And they actually got smart. And a lot of these URLs, the companies now are owned overseas, and it makes it really hard for us to go after them legally. So the most recent one was June of last year. A site called City X Guide was seized by Department of Homeland Security. And so that one is now down as well. So they're trying to make strides. Certainly, it's like whack-a-mole. You close one down, another one pops up. But I mean, at least that they're trying, so it's nice. And there's been some acts that have been passed, in federal government to help support trafficking victims and try to change some of the laws to give them a little bit more rights and make it easier to prosecute these guys. Yes. Okay. No, I think I'm almost done. Where's my thing? So we just talked about that. That's just a little sample of, if you just Google Tucson escorts, you're going to get a whole bunch of lists here in Tucson or any town that you're in. See stuff, sugar daddy. Rub Maps is associated to massage parlors. It tells you basically where you can go and get an illicit massage. It'll tell you where to go and who to ask for. So fake jobs, we see this a lot, like Craigslist, targeting teenagers, of course. Ooh, grooming. I'm not going to read all this to you. Basically, it's just kind of like a stage of how they would target somebody, kind of what I've been talking about. Like they'll find somebody that they want to target. They're going to build that friendship with them, build that friendship into like that romantic relationship. And then eventually it's going to turn into that abusive, controlling situation. We were talking, earlier about why doesn't anybody report it? This is why, a lot of times the victims, they're embarrassed. They're being threatened. They fear for their safety. They don't trust the law enforcement or anybody. They're on drugs, so they're not in their right state of mind. And they're being controlled, by the pimp. I think I'm almost done. Potential questions, it just depends on like what area that you work in. We used to throw this in because people would ask me all the time, and just some simple questions like, are you free to leave, and how'd you get here, and are you safe right now, and where's your ID? Why do you not have your ID? Is anybody threatening you? Just some basics. Ooh, red flags. This might be hard to read. A lot of them are the same. They're different. A lot of things is like third-party control. Juveniles is easier to probably spot because a lot of times it's a significantly older person with a younger person that just doesn't look right. So sometimes that's a big one. Or underage kids that are wearing, Louis Vuitton and fancy stuff. It's like, how do they afford that kind of stuff? Oh, that is the last slide. So I can leave that if you guys want to take. So this is my last slide. So there's a lot of content. Let's try to squeeze it all in. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. Sorry. This is why our class is normally an hour. Yes, sir.
Oh, hang on.
Thank you for your presentation. The other night on the news, they had a little bit up in Phoenix. They cracked a trafficking situation where it turned out that the child was the daughter of one of the traffickers. Is that typical? Is it becoming more prevalent?
I wouldn't say it's typical, but it's not uncommon at all. A lot of these traffickers will have kids with their victims. And then that's just another form of control, because they'll use that kid against them. That if you don't keep working for me, you're never going to see your child again, or I'll keep your child. So it's a really good manipulation tool for them. So yeah, it's not uncommon.
How much of the internet stuff is interstate or even international?
Well, a lot of, I mean, you can be anywhere. That's the thing. Sometimes we don't know where these conversations are taking place because we have to go back and trace the online accounts and everything. Most of the stuff I have here has been like local stuff, we know, but we certainly do have a lot of stuff that's out of state. I mean, because you can be anywhere with a fake profile.
I have a question. What about legalizing prostitution like in Nevada? Does that stop trafficking at all, or would that have, I'm just asking.
No, I laugh because like that's a whole like another argument. But it's funny because I just attended a class on this actually the other day. And I mean, statistically, it's shown that it really does not have any impact on like helping the situation. So ultimately, there still ends up being somebody at some point behind the scenes, it turns out, doing some form of control.
One of the sources you had listed earlier was Runaway Youth. And I just want to point out to the club that what we're talking about is youth on their own, kids who are exhibiting housing stress through no fault of their own. But if they lose that housing, a large majority of those kids do go into sex work.
Absolutely.
Particularly the LBG, whatever the, thank you. The LGBTQ kids, they're a very high percentage of those kids are in the YODO system. And if they lose their housing, they go to prostitution.
Yep, absolutely. They're definitely in that, you know, might be something they do, like I was talking about, sex survival or self-exploitation, but yeah, then it turns into a situation where it's not on their own. Exactly.
So are social media sites refusing to shut down things when they see it? I mean, there's certain people that social media cuts out real fast. I would think that they would be interested in eliminating some of these obvious sexual illusion sites.
Right. Some are more cooperative than others. I mean, all of those pictures, nobody would think anything is wrong with that because it's not actually showing any naked images. And the only part that they would take them down usually is if they can prove it's a minor. So a lot of times we have to send them something like, hey, we found on this account, like on that 14-year-old's account, I sent a thing to Snapchat. I was like, hey, this is a verified 14-year-old, you know, you need to shut this account down. And I never actually heard back from them on it. So the account and eventually went closed, but they weren't bad. Facebook's pretty good. I had a girl that got a picture posted on there, like on a sextortion issue, and they took it down right away. So yeah, some are better than others.
Hey, Steve, I think Allison has a question.
Oh yeah, so I put out some on the table. You'll see I brought in some just folders for you guys with reference materials, just to kind of let you to get some takeaways from what I talked about. I shared them in PDF for you guys who are offline. If anybody has any questions, you know, later you want anything else more, let me know. I have an extensive library of stuff. I also teach a class on social media safety and awareness for parents or adults who work with youth. So if anyone's interested in really delving into social media and online safety stuff, that's something that our department teaches.
Who's got?
Yeah, Steve, I don't know if I'm muted or not, Steve, but there's a question for Allison. Pablo or Michael, if you can unmute us. Can you hear us in person?
Go ahead.
There?
Go ahead, Allison. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Just a question, as a parent of a teenager, the culture of this social media and the acceptance of, it's almost like a sugar daddy environment. I hear these girls talk about, oh, he sent me money, he sent me a purse. I'm like, what? Like, they don't understand. Like, I tried to explain to them that, this is like prostitution. And then there was a case in Phoenix where that young woman from Massachusetts came out, met this guy online, and then she ended up dead. I mean, obviously she was hiking, but you don't know the circumstances of what these people are so willing. And I am sure it complicates your job even more, but is there just briefly something you could say to parents? Like, how do you force your kid to have a private account? I find that very difficult.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, and we get into that a lot. Our other class is over an hour, and that's like all we do. We teach you how to do parental controls and stuff. And I think just trying to have those conversations with your kids is really important. But you have to understand it yourself first before you can have those conversations. Because I think, they're kids and they don't think anything can happen to them, and, oh, I'm invincible and it's all just in fun. It's not a big deal. But yeah, I mean, there's been several cases where kids have met somebody online, Snapchat, and they ended up meeting them in real life. And then they were assaulted and ultimately murdered. And we talk about that in the other presentation. I don't think they ever really realize sometimes how dangerous it really can be. Like, you are meeting a stranger. So there's a quote in that video clip that that wouldn't work. It's basically like, well, you wouldn't let strangers into your homes. Why are we letting them into our phones? So you just need to kind of have that conversation with your kid that it's a different age now. Instead of a stranger coming to your door, the stranger danger, now it's stranger danger on the phone, online. So you just need to figure out how to have that conversation. And I have a lot of materials and stuff like that. If you want to email me, I can certainly send you some or get them to you somehow. And then hopefully we'll have a class here in the next couple of months.
All right, great. Well, Detective, thank you so much. Obviously, kind of a rough topic, but obviously the need to kind of monitor and provide information and most importantly try to protect these victims is super critical to our society. So thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for coming to speak to us today. Again, it's really great to see you, even if it is here digitally, but I'm glad you were able to join our members there. I think we mentioned that last time as well, but we have our tradition in our club for all our speakers. Just as a token of appreciation, we do a donation to our Polio Plus program. So in your honor, we're going to inoculate 10 people around the world just for trying to get polio under control. I guess it is under control, but trying to eradicate it completely. So just as a token of our appreciation, thank you so much. And Tony, maybe you can provide the contact information for the deck or for there if we have any questions or for some of those lessons. I think that would be great. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, I think, Pablo, it is Queen of Hearts time. Maybe go from the maybe to some happy news, unless BJ wins. I don't think anyone will be happy if that happens. I guess BJ might be, but yeah, I'll let you take it.
I'll be happy if BJ wins. Why not? Okay,
Well,
so
you're nicer than me.
So could everybody hear me? So we do have a winner, and the one gonna pick the card is Frank. So that last minute, one ticket you got one. So let's go. Let me go get the card. All right, Frank.
Good. Oh, wow.
Let me pull out the magic deck here.
Hey, Pablo, do you know off the top of your head what the kitty's up to?
I think it's like 430, 440. Around there.
All right, good luck, Frank.
And we got the 6 of diamonds.
Well, there's always a next time. Looking good there, Frank.
Good job, Frank. I'm not picking the queen. Till next time, keep on buying those raffles. Let's get it up there. So when I get it, I can pick the Queen of Hearts and get a big win. That is all. Back to you, President Jimmy.
All right, Pablo. Thank you so much. And thanks for all You're helping coordinating all that. It's nice to see the pot keep climbing. So keep our fingers crossed. All right, I think I see Joanne. Is Joanne Westerman in the house? So we have the honor of getting a little Joanne Westerman Sergeant at Arms. So
I'm
please
here.
welcome Joanne.
Thank you. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to skip my formal presentation, and you'll just have to, I'll save that for another day. Let's go right to birthdays and events. I'm going to start it off since I don't see any quick hands. My husband and I celebrated our 50th, that's 50 anniversary. It was, thank you. And so I'll do a leg up for that. It was an arranged marriage before I was born, so that doesn't. If I look this bad at age 50, I'd really complain. So that's all right. Anyway, who else has an event? I think Steve Pender.
Sure. Well, we're Helena and I are about 19 years behind you, but we celebrated our 31st anniversary this past week.
Yay.
Can't believe the time has flown as fast as it has.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, we spent a few days down in Bisbee and then came back, enjoyed the Jackson Browne concert Wednesday night, and then went out for a nice dinner yesterday, which was our actual anniversary. So I'll go a half a leg up. And,
Awesome.
as an investment, you know, when we reach 50, you'll get the other half a leg.
That's right. I'll be around to help you celebrate. Who else? Who else has birthdays? Oh, come on. Somebody's got something. Ah, here we go. Yes, PJ.
My daughter Penny, who we adopted earlier this year, just had her 3rd birthday.
Oh, yay.
And she came to us 3 weeks after she was born. So I don't remember the exact date, but we're right about there. So
awesome.
We've had the new kiddos for 3 years now.
Congratulations. That's great. Good news. And one last thing, unless somebody else has something, my daughter got engaged this last weekend. So she's going to be marrying a TPD detective, not Jennifer, but another one. So anyway, Maria Elena.
To put in a couple of happy bucks in honor of Barbara. Barbara, you're staying up awfully late to be with us. I hope you're enjoying Spain and eating the chorizo and the jamon that I have asked you to do for me. Thank you.
Let us know if they have vegan chorizo too.
I think Barbara was trying to say something. I believe she's muted.
Still muted, Barbara.
Still muted. Sign language, anyone? Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. I think I am done. Jimmy, back to you.
John.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Always good to raise a little bit there for foundation. So thank you. Barbara might have the Spanish keyboard, so maybe it's just a different layout for the computers over there. But no, we had a good conversation here before we started with the formal meeting. Some good topics and catching up there on Zoom. So thank you to all of you on Zoom for joining us. It's great to see everyone, and I'm really happy to see an increase in our in-person attendance. Obviously, with everything going on, it's still precautions necessary. So, but it's great to see everyone there, and it looks like everyone had a great time. Thank you to our programs speakers. So, Detective, I believe she might have stepped out, but thank you to her for joining us, and also to our program committee for putting it together. Sharon, thank you for stepping in and more valiantly and adequately introducing our speaker today. I want to thank Sharon also for leading our pledge, and Kirk for the invocation during our meeting. So thank you for that. I want to welcome Randall. Thank you so much for joining our club here and visiting us today. So hopefully we can see you again sometime. And let me see here. Am I missing anyone? Pablo, thank you for the Queen of Hearts, and Joanne, obviously, thank you for your help as Sergeant there. And last but certainly not least, our hybrid team there. I think it's Pablo, Tony, and I think I heard Michael earlier. So thank you so much. You really do make our meetings tick. So appreciate all the work and the effort and time that you commit to making these meetings happen. So thank you so much. And unless I'm missing anything, I'll ask you all to please rise and join me in reciting the four-way test. Close our meeting with the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. And first, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Second, Is it fair
Is
to
it
all
fair to all
concerned?
concerned?
Third, will it build
Will it
goodwill
build
and better friendships?
friendships?
And fourth, will it be
Will it
beneficial
be
to all
beneficial to
concerned?
all concerned?
Thank you again so much, and hopefully we'll see you all next week for our DG visit. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye.
See you, Jimmy.
See ya.